If it is for y'all, we're going to be getting this episode started in 3 minutes. So if you're coming in to watch this one live, I'm super pumped. So get into those comments, guys. Let us know you're here. I am really, really hyped and ready to deliver some value to you guys. So as we start this beautiful, beautiful pump day on the Northern Hemisphere, happy Thursday to all of our Aussies tuning in live to this one. We're going to be starting in 2 minutes. So if you are coming into this one to hang out with me live, please get into the comments. Let us know you're here. I want to know what's going down. We are ready to rock and roll. Be up, coach. I love that. I am super up. I'm ready to go. So team, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you kids are, whether you're working out in the gym, whether you are down at the beach doing a meditation and I'm interrupting your morning, or whether you are tuning in from home and getting some downtime. Happy days. We're going to get started in this, guys, in 1.5 minutes. Let us know in the comments how your week's been, team. What's been going down? Me personally, I feel finally good that I'm getting some sunshine on my pasty skin. To all of you that live in like the countries that have like a significant amount of cold, I feel for you, because we go through these periods like in Canada of 2 to 4 months where it's just like literally pitch black. It just feels garbage. And I don't know about you, but my mental health is nowhere near as good as it is when I've just got a little bit of sun on my skin and a little bit of a tan to myself. So it's good. Having the beach nice is always beautiful. So good morning, team. I hope you're having a lovely start. We're getting started in 30 seconds. So if you want me to bring the hype, there's 15 people watching on live. Please get down into the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe, share the podcast, help me take this message to the world. And I think we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, let's do this. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. We've already done one podcast this week, and this was with Miss Siobhan Conn from Discovery Health Coaching. It was a very long podcast where we broke down really the challenges of transformation. I wanted to do another podcast today where we followed up with a little bit more practical approach. And I really do think that this is going to help. I'm going to give you my 10 non-negotiables. But before I go through these non-negotiables, what I'd like to cover is why the hell I'm doing this podcast. All right. So I had a conversation with our UK crew, our UK men, a coaching call earlier in the week. And I asked the boys on that call, I said, so fellas, many of you are getting great results, like incredible results. And I said to them, hey, what are the things that you can always rely on every day when you're not motivated? What are the pillars or maybe the systems or the habits that you've built, which when your motivation disappears, you can rely on these things? The reason I asked this question was because, what I really try to do is, I've just realized I'm turning 42 this year. For a lot of guys, girls, by 40, they're kind of fallen over. They're ready to put one foot in the grave. And that makes me really, really sad, because it doesn't have to be like that. The problem is that everyone is looking to stay motivated. They want to drink from this fountain of motivation. It fucking doesn't exist. What does exist is two things. Number one, asking yourself genuinely, why do I want this? Now, as you know, inside of Better Body Academy, we've recently done a bit of a screen through to dig into your real reasons, the real reasons for being here. Yeah, you want to lose weight. Why is that important? Yeah, you want to do stuff for the kids. Why is that important? Dig. So the first thing we need to do is we need to dig into why we even care about this. Because I can tell you straight away, if your why is you want to lose fat, it's not going to last very long. It's just really not. That was one of the things that came up in the conversation with Siobhan. If it's just like, I just want to lose weight, that's not very motivating. But even if you have a really solid why and you're very clear on your reasons for existing, for doing your transformation, well, then you need to have a system, because the struggle is that without a system, what do you rely on when things get tough? Now, I'm actually going to highlight a comment here from Phil, and I hope you don't mind me highlighting the comment. Phil says, as I said to you in a PM, I feel embarrassed about my body. Okay, Phil, the reason you shouldn't be embarrassed about me highlighting that comment is because the vast majority of people do. They look in the mirror, and feel free to let me know in the comments if this is you. You look in the mirror and you go, how the hell did I get here? I used to be healthy, I used to be in control, and now I feel like I just woke up one day and I don't even know myself. Kev Grant, your mate Phil, is an example of this. He looked in his mirror and he was about to turn 50, and he contacted me a few days before his 50th birthday, and he just didn't know himself anymore. He had this big belly, he didn't know how he got there. Well, let me tell you how you got there. Let me relinquish yourself of some pain that you might be feeling, or some guilt or shame or embarrassment. The reason you got there wasn't because you want to be overweight. It was because you're a human that's trying to juggle a bunch of things at one time. And guess what? It's pretty hard. I don't know about you, but I'm a really shitty juggler. If I try to juggle, I drop the balls quite quickly. And realistically, if you don't have a good system for your health management, well, what's going to happen is as soon as you get busy, as soon as you get overwhelmed, the balls are going to start dropping. And that shows up as weight gain, getting out of shape, not being able to keep up with the kids. So now that we've got that as a template, obviously you guys know inside of Better Body Academy, we teach a system. That system being called, the simple system, the trifecta. But what I want to talk about in this episode is what non-negotiables can you bring into your life that help to hold up your application of that system? So let's say you do. Let's just talk specifically about you. You want to lose some weight, get a little bit back in shape. Pretty common goal, right? You know your why. You know that it's important to you. You feel pretty motivated at the moment to change it. These are all good things. What is predictable is that you're going to hit hurdles in your transformation. Guess what? So do I. Everyone does in anything they're trying to transform in their life, because if you didn't hit hurdles, you'd already have the thing. Let's pretend you were trying to transform your finances. If you didn't have weeks where you messed up your budget, well, you'd already have all the money that you'd want because you would have already perfected that skill. And it's the same in transformation. What's happening here is we are trying to overcome the old mindset that's kept us so stuck. Now, I want to start off with a comment. For any of you that read the post that I did yesterday, in Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books, you should read it if you haven't. He talks about the idea that winners and losers have the same goals. I mean, let's actually think about, listen up. Get your awareness helmet on, guys, and listen up. Would it be true to say that everyone listening to this podcast wants to be healthier? Yeah? You want to be healthier, right? I don't think there's a person that says, I want to be unhealthier. I want to be healthier. Would you like more money? I would. I'm guessing you would too. Okay, next up. Would you like better relationships? Stronger, tighter, more vulnerable, trusting, loyal relationships? Yep, me too. Okay, so there's 3 things that I've just counted out then that are all goals that we all have that are all the same. Yet some of us will get there and some of us will not. So if it was about the goal, then why wouldn't we all have it? And we don't all have it, even though we've got the same goal. So people that win and people that lose have the same goal. It's not about the goal. It's about the habits that you create. And so when I got thinking about this in our chat the other day to our UK guys, and I said, guys, what are you depending on? What are your habits? What are your non-negotiables that you do every day? The irony of it was that these guys are getting great results And they don't even have 10 set habits that they do every single day that they rely on. Can you imagine, and I asked them the question, can you imagine how much progress you would make if you all of a sudden weren't so dependent on willpower? At the moment, you guys are so dependent on willpower. What if we instead built a system for you? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through my 10 non-negotiables and why they're important to me. I'm not necessarily saying that you should do these, but I want to give you some insight into why I don't care about motivation. I don't care if I feel motivated or not. This morning when I woke up at 4 o'clock, I did not feel like going to the gym, but I went to the gym. I wasn't motivated, but I did it anyway, and I want to show you how I'm able to achieve this. So let's get stuck in. These are my 10 simple non-negotiables that form the basis of my system. The first one is getting up early. Look, I'm just going to say this as clearly as I possibly can. You can do one of two things. You can work harder, or you can work more hours in whatever you're doing. So then the question you want to ask yourself is, do you want to add more hours of dead time or productive time? What do I mean by this? Well, so many of you will say, I'm not a morning person. Okay, I get it. And you know what? When you got kids, it's a challenge. I get it. I've been through it all. I understand. But here's the challenge. If you add hours onto the end of the day by staying up later and getting up later, you're adding hours onto unproductive time. Very few people are efficient at 11 o'clock at night after they've just existed an entire 14 hours of the day. So hours added on to the end of the night are not very beneficial. However, you go to sleep, unless you work shift work, you go to sleep for say 6 to 8 hours and then you wake up. That's the most refreshed you're going to feel. So if you add hours to the back end of your day and shift the day forward and get up an extra hour or two earlier, it is going to completely change the game. Now, already a lot of you will have checked out because you're just going to say something along the lines of, I can't get up any earlier. I'm not a morning person. If you can stop that story and just ask yourself, but what if I could get up? How could I get up an hour earlier? What if I did that? At the start of your day, it's going to completely transform everything. These are the hours when no one bothers you, no one's awake. So think about what the implications are going to be. You're going to be extending your productive time, but on top of that, you're going to feel like you are an hour or two ahead of everyone in your entire family and world. Think about it this way. It is 9:13 where I am, 9:13 a.m. I've been awake for over 5 hours now. I've jammed in a shit ton in 5 hours. It's only 9:13, but it feels like the afternoon to me. I'm ahead of everyone, which makes me realize that. Now, if you want some insight into this, hey, I've got a comment from him. Terry, 3:45 today. Okay? Inside a Better Body Academy, you will see the same guys and girls every morning waking up saying, I'm here. There's no coincidence that the ones that are waking up early are also the ones that are getting successful because they're creating time at the start of the day. Now, not every point that I'm going to discuss is going to be that long, but this is how much I believe it, and this is how much it's number one. Okay, number two, and Kate Astley says 4:30 for me. Well, funny that, because Kate's lost 20 kilos. 3 a.m. daily. Okay, we're getting all the early morning crew coming here. Like, try it for a week, a month. Put it this way. Let me give you something here. If you woke up 1 hour earlier than you do, just 1 hour earlier than you do, okay? What's going to happen here? So as an example, Phil gets up at 6 o'clock. What if you got up at 5 o'clock, Phil? Well, what's going to happen here is you are going to add 1 hour over 28 days. Now, my maths isn't that good, but I'm going to go 28 days times 1 extra hour is 28, and I'm going to times that by I'm going to divide that by that. You're adding a full day, or in terms of an 8-hour day, you're adding about, say, 28 divided by an 8-hour day. You're adding 3 to 4 hours of productive days to your entire week. It's mental. Now, let's go to point number 2, okay? Let's go to point number 2. Point number 2 is sleeping a minimum, now in my case, remember these are my non-negotiables, of 6 hours, okay? I am fine with 6 hours. I'm productive, I'm good, I'm out like a light. Now for you, it might be 7, 7.5, 8 hours. It doesn't matter. But if you think about it this way, you asked the question here, Phil, how does it impact your social life? Well, I'm just going to ask you a simple question, Phil, and it's this simple. Do you want to be fat or do you want to be social? Like, what are you doing at 10 o'clock at night that's social? Is it playing on a computer? Is it watching Netflix? I'm not sure. I'm not criticizing, by the way. If I want to be social, I'll be social on a weekend. I'll get up early and go for breakfast. I'll catch up with people in the middle of the day. Now, I have that ability, but nothing good happens after 10. Anyone that used to be a pisshead will know this. Nothing good happens at that time. So, I'm not saying go without sleeping. What I'm saying is shift the frame, the window of your 6 to 8 hours. So if you're used to staying up at 11 o'clock at night, so one of the guys on the UK call, 11 o'clock at night, he wakes up at basically 7 o'clock in the morning, which means he's got 8 hours, okay? All he would need to do, in my opinion, would be to shift that 11 o'clock go to bed time back to 10 o'clock, which means instead he gets up at 6 o'clock. All of a sudden, he's ahead of the game. He's now getting up an hour earlier than his partner, so he's got an hour of productive time where he's not bothered. Look, I'm going to leave it there because I could talk about this as an essay. It is, when I had kids, I was staying, here's what I was doing. Phil, to your point, I was, they kind of woke up, did their day, and then we put them to bed at like 8 o'clock. And I was feeling almost like I need to stay up for an extra 2 or 3 hours just so I feel like I'm alive. Otherwise, like I don't feel like I'm getting any life. But then I realized that, I'm just vegging in front of the TV, staying up, when actually I could add the life at the start, at the morning. And guess what happens? You look after your sleep, which is point number 2. You become more productive in the hours that you're awake. Do I get tired? Yes, I get tired. But I'm more productive in the hours. I'm awake, and this is the key. Okay, so point number 2 is shift the frame. Don't just go without sleep. The answer is not... So one of the boys said to me the other day, he said, I used to... This was on the call. He said... I used to go to bed at 11 o'clock and get up at 3 o'clock. That's 4 hours of sleep. That's just, if you've got a goal to look better, that's self-sabotage number 1. Sleep is the most important part of the recovery process, okay? If you're not getting enough sleep, your hormones will be a mess and you will just behaviorally eat everything, and you'll get cravings for fat and sugar. It's terrible. So I'm not saying go without sleep. I'm saying go to bed in non-productive time and shift it forward. Now, I don't know if she's watching here, but I believe that Sean Baker has done this exactly. She constantly said, I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. She had a story. I'm not a morning person. All of a sudden, I'm seeing her up at 5 o'clock. It's just a game changer. Okay, that's a non-negotiable for me. 6 hours sleep per night. Next, this is minimal. Whether I'm dirty or not, I go and have a shower first thing. There's something about having a shower which represents to me the start of the day. Again, might not be a big deal for you. You might be able to roll out of bed, go for a run, go for a gym session. But for me, the shower is symbolic of the start of my day. So my process looks exactly like this. I wake up, I go for a pee, I put the kettle on, I have a shower, come back in, I take 1 massive glass of water, a teaspoon of creatine, and then I have my protein oats with a coffee after meditating for 15 minutes, which I'll get to in a second. So The shower is a big thing for me. So if you find it difficult to wake up in the morning, I'm not even saying have a cold shower or any of that fancy shit. I'm just saying the shower will freshen you up in the same way that a coffee will. Okay, next up, meditating for 15 minutes afterwards. We've been practicing this amongst some of our mastermind students, okay? Give me a silent head nod if you've been doing this. So I know that a few people have, but a lot of you mastermind students haven't done it. Why? Because it's too hard, I don't know how to meditate, and it's annoying, or any other excuse. Okay, here's the way I want to think about it. One of our clients, Steve, said to me that he wakes up every morning and he can't feel good unless he makes his bed. That's because he's come from the military, right? And that's just something that's instilled in people. I want to tell you that meditation or some form of a mindfulness program to start your day is like making the sheets of your mind, okay? Think of it like that. Your mind, you woke up, you're kind of carrying stuff up from the next day, your worries about the past, your worries about the future, and your mind. So what we do is we meditate for 5 to 10 to 15 minutes and pull the sheets up like making our bed in our mind so that we're resetting our mind and we're good. Now, have I always done this? No, I haven't. But I'm going to put up my hand and say, I need to. I need to meditate. Here's why I need to meditate. Because I personally find it very, very, very difficult to put my work down. I'm so fucking passionate about what we do because we're changing the world. The problem is when you're so passionate and ambitious, trying to put it down for 5 minutes is very, very difficult. So what I tend to do is take on a lot of the struggles that you, our clients, are having, right? So I take on that stuff. I need a practice to help pull the sheets up in my mind, okay? So if you're the same and you're an anxious person, you are someone who is like always thinking, it's going to be, the first 6 months of meditation is going to be really difficult. But if you, let's just say you got a condition that required you to take this certain medication and the doctor said you should do it, you would do it. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you have anxiety, you're high functioning, you are erratic, you are very triggered by stress, many different reasons why you should do it, you should meditate. If you're very calmer and nothing really bothers you, then not a problem for you. You maybe don't need to do it. But for me, I have to build this into my practice. This is a non-negotiable. Number 5, and guys, this is so easy to do, it's not funny. One of my 5th non-negotiable is I eat 50 grams of protein before 7, 8 a.m. And you know how I do it? 2 scoops of protein powder. Why do I do that? You guys keep saying, I don't know how to get to my protein target without hitting too high in calories, which is obviously a weight management concern, right? This is why protein powder is so important, okay? Protein powder, I'll give you an example. If you wanted to get 50 grams of protein from a steak, as an example, a piece of red meat, the calorie cost to you is going to be about 500 to 600 calories. I'll say it again, 50 grams of protein, 5 to 600 calories. For you to get that same 50 grams of protein from protein powder, the calorie cost is about 250 calories. Does that hit? Like, if that doesn't hit, you've missed the point. You can have 50 grams of protein in a shake, cost 250 calories. 50 grams of protein from meat, cost 50 to 100, 500 to 600 calories. That's the way to get some protein in early. Why is having protein at the start of the day good? Well, first, you have a total daily protein target to hit. And if you routinely do not hit that protein target, chances of you building any form of muscle is going to be a real struggle, right? Number 1. Number 2, protein is the most satiating of the nutrients. If you're having a high carb breakfast, as an example, I'm not saying carbs are bad, I'm saying they are far easier to process. What's going to happen is that you're going to be hungrier more frequently. But if you can make the change to getting in protein at every meal, and think about this, the way that should look like for your average man is 50 for breakfast, 50 for lunch, 50 for dinner, and then 50 in snacks. Now, if you're fasting, slightly different, but we have to back end it a little bit. Fasting is just a tool. You do not have to do it. There are ways around it, but you have to get your protein in. And one of my non-negotiables is I get it in before 8 o'clock. This basically means that as long as I hit 50 grams of protein on my lunch and dinner, which are always going to be meat and something, then making up the deficit only requires me to find another 50 grams somewhere in snacks. Pretty damn simple. Okay, next non-negotiable. This is one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, because I want to give you my opinion on this, and that is that I spend a lot of money on groceries. Now, hard to talk about this with any insight, without any explanation of personal finances. So it comes with this caveat. But for me, I think about investing in good quality food as not just investing in that meal in the future. I'll give you an example. If I'm poisoning myself with processed garbage foods, that's going to gradually accumulate weight over time. So I might be getting the groceries cheap, but what is the cost of laying that fat on my body? Especially if I'm already overweight and I'm a chance of having a heart attack, diabetes. To you guys and girls that have had gastric surgeries costing $20,000 to $40,000, like, I look at the conveyor belt of food and I sometimes think, oh gosh. And then I get my credit card out and I'm like, ugh. But I remind myself that this is an investment in my health. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the different ways that you can find cheaper, lean, healthy cuts of meat, as an example. How you do not need to buy organic. It's not going to impact your weight at all. And all those peculiarities. But I did just want to say that for me, I would rather give away pretty much everything than not spend money on quality food. It is extremely high on my core values list. It's a non-negotiable. Number 7, I train a minimum of 3 days a week. And people say, oh, there's no way in the world that you're only training 3 days a week. I'm not saying that I only train 3 days a week. Most days I train 4. However, my mindset is different, right? You guys have this mindset that if I'm not doing something every day, I'm not working hard enough, no pain, no gain. You're not a fucking fitness influencer. So stop with that mindset. What about you flip the mindset to exactly the opposite? What is the least amount of exercise that I need to commit to give myself optimum health? Right? Isn't that a less overwhelming approach? What is the minimum amount of exercise that I need to commit to? So for me, the minimum amount of exercise that I feel that I need to commit to keep my body looking juicy is 3 gym sessions a week. And then throughout the day, moving as much as I possibly can. I don't sit there and go, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days this week, because I know that A, that's not actually good. B, it's not really going to help my goals. And C, I'm going to get overwhelmed. That's not what I want to do. I want to make this easy. I want to do my fitness, do my health, and then get back to my life. Does that make sense? So for me, the non-negotiable is 3 per day. Hit me in the comments. There's 30 people watching here live. What do you feel like is your minimum? What is your non-negotiable in terms of training? Okay, I've got 3 to go. Number 8 is at least 30 minutes of learning per day. If you were to ask me what is the key to happiness, I would answer continual growth. I'm not a happiness guru, but I would answer continual growth. Feeling like you're moving forward in life. Regardless of the speed, for me, the key to happiness is continued growth. So the question is, what's the catalyst for growth? The answer is learning. So many people have not learned a fucking thing since they stopped school. So if you feel like you're unhappy, it's probably because you're not growing. And you're not growing because you're not learning, because you're not actively learning or identifying an opportunity to learn. Now, listening to a podcast like this would be an example. So how can you learn? At an absolute minimum, I am studying, like a bare minimum, for 30 minutes a day. Podcasting, attending my own coaching sessions or mastermind sessions for coaching that I am part of, reading a chapter of a book or half a chapter of a book. There are a bunch of different ways that you can do it. Studying a course, it might be a language. This is learning. If your life's not changing, it's because you're not doing anything different. Like it doesn't, sometimes you just have to hear this in a very blunt way. So for me, 30 minutes of learning is a non-negotiable. Number 9, posting on social media once per day is irrelevant to you perhaps. But for me, I care about being the person that shows up in your feed to the point where you're like, fuck, he's everywhere. And it's not because I'm doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. It's because I post once a day. I know that how I do one thing is how I do everything. So if I'm consistent with my meals, my workouts, my posting, I'm not relying on motivation. I'm just being consistent. I'm not stressing, I need to do a social media post 5 times a day. Just show up once a day. And guess what? You can apply the same logic in your life. What is the one thing that you would benefit from doing once a day? Telling your partner you love them, spending 15 minutes with the kids, going for a 15-minute walk on your lunch break, committing to 20 minutes learning. There could be an infinite list here. But it is consistency, not intensity, which makes the inroads. Consistency, not intensity. When you're too intense and you try to go to the gym 4 or 5 or 6 days a week, you can't keep it up because you're sore and then you're overrun and you're overwhelmed and overworked and then you don't go for the next 2 weeks and then you fall off. That's an example of intensity being compromising your efforts. So you're just far better to scale it back and be consistent. Like why I look okay is because I've been consistent since I was 10 years old and I'm now 42. Like that's 30 years of consistency. And to those of you that are stepping on the scales because you've just joined BBA and looking and going, well, why aren't the scales down? You've been consistent for a week. Like consistency, not intensity. Let's start playing the long game. And the final tip of my non-negotiables is that I have just very little tolerance. In fact, 0 tolerance for negativity. And, you know, to any person who feels in a victim mindset at the moment where they have stuff going on in their life, and they're going to say things to themselves right now like, yeah, you don't know how hard it is, and you don't know, and you don't know, and you don't know. Okay, sure, I don't know the specifics. But what I do know is this. Whether you believe that you are deserving of more or not, whether you believe that things are unfair or not, the belief is okay. But at the end of the day, the next question that you need to process after deciding whether or not it's fair is, what am I going to do about it? And so most people's answer to this question is to just tell everyone else how hard they've got it. Now, There's a difference between raising your hand, saying, I'm doing it tough, and asking for help. And again, this is a really sensitive topic to talk about, but just constantly becoming like loose-lipped and having a mouth that just empties shit out to anyone, polluting the environment around you, that doesn't help. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help your environment. So you've got to get to the point where you have a zero negativity. Otherwise, you end up just taking on everything from the world. This is far easier said than done, and it's a practice into itself. This doesn't mean I have no compassion. You can't be a coach without, to the level that we are, without having compassion. But you also can't be the person that is like always taking on everyone else's negativity. You might be an optimistic person, but you're taking it on because you're a kind person. It's almost like this idea of fitting your own mask first. You need to put up some walls. So many of you live in families where your partner or your mum and dad or whoever it is just like constant feed of negativity, and it ends up corrupting your mindset and makes it very difficult for you to break free. And you can give me a silent head nod if that is you. I just have a zero tolerance to it. And I'd rather just push away and not listen to it than let that wreck the aura of energy that I have around me. Phil, you've been good in this podcast, bro. One of the hardest things to avoid or control at work, though. People seek to thrive on it. That's what they call it, water cooler discussions. People want to whinge about every single thing. And don't get me wrong, I've been there, I've done it myself, I understand it. But then when you hop on the other side and you become more aware, you realize that actually the gossip mill doesn't fucking help anyone. This is the main reason why I do not listen to the news. Right? People say, well, how do you find out what's going on in the world, Jace? If it's something really important, people will tell me. That's how I find out, because I can rely on the gossip. But I don't want to sit there and listen to, have a think about your nightly news. Have a think about it. Like, guys, you might be a really big news advocate. Like my parents sit there and they look at the news and they're fixed to the news and like, oh, I've got to watch the news at 6 o'clock. Okay, just think about what it's doing here. Death, 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 sport, weather, attempted feel-good story. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow at the same time. Who wants to fucking suck that energy into them? Not sure who this is, but I had the same problem at work. I bit the bullet and left, took the gamble, and it's finally paid off. Because you get what you tolerate. So guys, I'm interested, and I'm going to finish off the podcast now. I'm going to read back my list very quickly and ask you, is there anyone, come on, there's 26 people watching this live. What one of these could you look at? Or has this discussion made you think, you know what, you're right. I feel motivated at the moment. I feel like I'm in touch with my why, but I don't really have a fundamental system of habits. So let me ask you, would getting up 1 hour earlier help you? Would making sure that you commit to a minimum of 6 to 8 hours sleep a night help? I have a morning shower every day. I meditate because I have to. This is a relatively new behavior because I have to. I've realized I have to try to calm my mind. If you're struggling to get your protein intake, would starting the day with 50 grams of protein before 8 o'clock help you? Would changing your mindset around spending money on groceries, would that be fixed if you took a longer term approach to this being an investment in your non-fatness as opposed to just tonight's meal? How many days minimum do you want to train per week? What's your non-negotiable? Not like if things are right, if things are good, if it's raining. What is the minimum that you do every week? What about learning 30 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour a day? What could you learn? What would you want to learn? Being consistent with one thing. For me, it's posting on social media once a day so people see me constantly. And then finally, I have zero tolerance for negativity. These are the 10 non-negotiables that I personally have. I'm not saying that you should take on one or, in fact, all of these. But what you definitely should do is ask yourself, if I'm constantly relying on motivation and willpower every morning to push me through, would it be better if I had some pillars up? Think of them almost like pylons supporting a house, right? If every day you had to go out and lift your house up, right? That'd be tiring. But you got these pillars, these really firm pillars that stand under your building. They keep it supported. They're the struts. They're the suspension. And when you're not feeling motivated, guess what? You can just rely on those pillars. Hopefully this has been helpful, guys. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast coming to you for the second time this week. And we'll see you in the next episode. Okay, team. I'm going to stick around if anyone has any questions or comments. Please just pop them in the comments. Yep. The news contrived to frighten people into obeying. 1000%. I have a wellness chart with 7 non-negotiables. That is awesome. I love that idea. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is obviously we just want to make sure that the non-negotiables are relevant to you, because if you pick up someone else's non-negotiables, then, well, they're not really yours. You really, really want to have something that you've built. Like, what are you? Needed to listen to that, Freddie. Freddie says, thanks, Jace. My absolute pleasure, brother. Well, Freddie, start getting on the fucking calls, mate. You would have missed the live chat about this, buddy. 1 hour a week. Thanks, Jace. No problems, Phil. Guys, any questions? There's still 27 people hanging around. Any questions, any comments, anything that you think would really help you build into your system? Now that you've become aware of it, if you feel like, oh man, I'm doing really well at the moment, but it just feels like I'm always trying to motivate myself, push myself. What can you bring in? I don't watch the news or the radio news. Spotify and Netflix are my new way of life. Yeah, exactly, because it's choice. It's user choice to a degree, if you cultivate your feed the right way. Even still, there is some bias there, but yeah. Okay, guys, if there's nothing more, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a beautiful, beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. Thanks for coming to this one live. I hope you got value, and I'll see you in the next episode.